So we are seeing violence coming out of certain quarters of the Muslim world. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. I want to talk about a few incidents that took place in Pakistan yesterday and use that to explain some of the dynamics happening internally in the Muslim world as they react to this devastating takedown of the Iranian leadership, the Iranian regime, hopefully. So let's take a look first at what happened yesterday, and then we'll get into what it all means. Okay, so this is hundreds of protesters marching towards the U.S. Consulate in Peshawar, Pakistan, to mourn Khamenei's death. Security deployed on all roads leading to the area. Here you have holding pictures of Khamenei. Okay. They're marching to the consulate, and here we have an attack on a U.S. consulate in Pakistan. Okay, so take a look at what happens here. Breaking the windows. This is in Karachi. It's not in the same city as we just showed you, as Peshawar. The American flag, and they're attacking the consulate, and this turned deadly. Okay, the Americans opened fire at the U.S. consulate. Well, people were actually attacking it and getting violent, and they used open fire to disperse the crowds. One of the rioters firing back, running from the scene. And we're also seeing people who are holding limbs of themselves because they're injured. That guy's shot in his arm. But now we have someone who's being carried out. Much more serious injury. And reportedly, there were 22 people who were killed in this interaction.
Go down.
That one guy on the ground.
Let's go down.
They're trying to figure out how to pick him up, and they carry him off. Okay, so you see what happened here. This was a very violent incident. U.S. Marines opened fire on armed rioters in Pakistan who violently tried to infiltrate the embassy there. Okay. That's it for the clips. You get the idea. Now, here's the news story from Newsday. At least 22 people killed in Pakistan as protesters try to storm the U.S. consulate. Okay. Now, let's pay attention to where this is happening. In Karachi, Pakistan, violent clashes between protesters and security forces in Pakistan's southern port city of Karachi and in the country's north left at least 22 people dead and more than 120 injured as demonstrators supportive of the Iranian government attempted to storm a U.S. consulate on Sunday. In the north of the country, they attacked UN and government offices, and it's a response to Khamenei's death. President Asif Ali Zardari expressed his profound sorrow over the martyrdom of Khamenei and conveyed his condolences to Iran, according to his office. Okay, and then it says 12 people were killed, 80 wounded in the northern Gilgit-Baltistan region. Thousands of protesters, angered by U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran, attacked the offices of the UN Military Observer Group and the UN Development Program. Okay, and then later on down here, the U.S. Embassy posted that it was monitoring ongoing demonstrations. It advised U.S. citizens in Pakistan to monitor the local news. And now, look what we have down here. The clashes prompted Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi to issue an appeal for calm Following the martyrdom of Ayatollah Khamenei, every citizen of Pakistan shares in the grief of the people of Iran, Naqvi said in a statement, but he urged people not to take the law into their own hands. Okay, what's going on here? Let me pull back the camera a little bit and talk about Pakistan. Okay, let's talk about Islam in Pakistan. So worldwide, something like 80% of all Muslims in the world are Sunni, okay? And then the rest are Shiite. Shiites are a very, very small minority. There are only 4 countries in the world that have a Shiite majority. Iran, of course. And then you have Shiite majorities exist in Azerbaijan. And we saw in an update that I did yesterday that the Azerbaijani government was one of the only governments to issue a former condolence message to Iran for the death of Khamenei. Azerbaijanis are Shiites, okay? Iraq also has a Shiite majority. So there's very few places where there's a Shiite majority. Now Pakistan. Oh, I just got a notification that there might be an air raid siren any moment now. So in Pakistan, if there is, I'll have to stop this video and go into the bomb shelter. In Pakistan, there is a Shiite minority, but it is a majority in the region of Gilgit-Balochistan that I just mentioned there, right? In that Gilgit area, the area where a lot of the riots were taking place, and in certain cities. Punjab is one of them. There are some pockets of Shiites, and here's the key. Pakistan has the second largest Shiite population, even though it's not a Shiite majority country. It's got a massive population, but it has the second largest population of Shiites but after Iran in the world. So the fact that we're seeing riots, pro-Khamenei riots in Pakistan should not surprise us. There are a lot of Shiites there, and they're freaking out. And that's what I wanted to talk about in this video, really, which is that the Sunni world, for the most part, is not expressing condolences. We saw that yesterday, not Qatar, not Saudi Arabia. I mean, Iran is attacking a lot of these countries, but even countries they're not attacking, like Egypt and Syria, no one's offering condolences on the death of Khamenei. The exception was Erdogan. And I suggested yesterday that Erdogan was doing that for diplomatic reasons because he wants to play both sides, because he sees himself as possibly having a diplomatic role to play here down range. And I'm waiting to see if that plays out. But Turkey really stood out as a Sunni Muslim country expressing condolences. For the most part, the Sunni world has been silent or actually hostile to Iran since this war started a couple days ago. But you have these Shiites in Pakistan who are absolutely freaking out. Now, people aren't talking so much about what this war is doing to Shiite Islam, but we have to think about this because, as I just said, Shiite Islam is only a majority in a few countries. The only large one is Iran. And so much so that the second largest population of Shiites in the world after Iran is Pakistan, where they're only about 15 to 20% of the entire population. You got that? In other words, Iran is Shiite Islam, basically. And Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, was the religious leader of Shiite Islam. If the regime falls in Iran, one of the impacts that it will have is a devastating blow to Shiite Islam. It's defeat. It's more than a blow. A blow to a branch of a religion would be, maybe one of their countries falls or something like that. We're talking about basically the seat of Shiite Islam, its home base, with its supreme leader being taken down. This is a defeat for Shiite Islam. So this is something to watch as we see how other pockets of Shiite population behave. And in that Newsweek article, when it was mentioning, that Newsday article that I was just reading from, where it mentioned a number of places in Pakistan where these riots are happening, I looked them up, and these are all Shiite locations. And the interior minister who was quoted in the piece, okay, the interior minister, whose name was Mohsin Naqvi, I looked him up too. He's also a Shiite, even though they're a very small minority. So he's the one who stood up, the interior minister, not just because he's the interior minister, but he's a Shiite. He stood up and called for calm. That, obviously this is this is a crisis for the Shiites. In the northwestern city of Peshawar, it says here, the authorities also used tear gas. Peshawar is one of the few towns in Pakistan which is majority Shiite. Okay? The protesters also held a peaceful rally in Multan, a city in Punjab. These are the Shiite pockets in Pakistan. And I think it's worth noting that for years and years, we've heard about this tension between the Shiites and the Sunnis, but they often get along diplomatically, and especially they tend to get along when it comes to being anti-Israel. But here we have this upside-down situation, this crazy situation where Israel's attacking Iran. Iran starts attacking Sunni Muslim nations like the UAE, like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar, Jordan. They're firing on them. And that's turning these Sunni nations against Iran, who they hated anyway, because, again, the Sunni Shiite thing, they can't stand them. And now with the regime teetering and possibly, falling, they're not offering condolences. They're not coming to their aid, but you have Shiites pockets in other countries. Another one of the countries that has a majority Shiite population is Iraq. It just basically borders on Iran. It's right there. And we talked about the Iraqi militias yesterday. They're the only proxy that has actually really gotten active. Well, until yesterday, Hezbollah fired a few rockets, and they quickly regretted that. Israel's been bombing Lebanon today. We're going to do a separate video, an update on the proxies, where we're going to talk about what's happened in Lebanon. But basically, I wanted to focus in on the fact that this war, among everything else, and taking down the regime change and the ballistic missiles and the nuclear and all the other issues we talk about, funding the proxies, the geopolitical issues, Israel, America, let's also focus in on the fact that a major branch of Islam is going through it's more than a crisis. I cannot overstate this. We're talking about the very seat of their religion, the only large population of Shiites, the only large country with a Shiite majority, Iran, and that Shiite leadership is being defeated right now and being destroyed. So you could understand why these Shiite Muslims in Pakistan are absolutely freaking out and getting violent and going berserk. Their whole world is crumbling around them. That's what I wanted to share in this video. I want to keep following these various plot lines that are happening around the war. I think it's very important that we don't lose sight of the domino effects that this war is having and the way it's impacting other countries in the region, geopolitical situations. We talked about Saudi Arabia yesterday, but we cannot ignore the impact that this is having on Islam, specifically Shiite Islam. Now, the flip side of that is that it's not going to have that much effect in terms of demoralizing Sunni Muslims, which is the majority of the Muslims in the world. That the Muslim Brotherhood, who are the root of so many of the problems we face in the West, and we face from so many hostile countries in the Middle East as well. They're not going to be affected by this in terms of morally. It's not going to crush them. But crushing defeats have a way of moderating people's ideologies. And Shiites were not always radical. We think of Shiites now as the crazies because that's Iran, and they have this type of Shiite Islam that is genocidal, and that's where the Iranian regime pushed it. But here's an interesting point. Azerbaijan is a kind of a secular Muslim country, sort of like Reform Muslims. They're not that religious, but they're Shiites. The Iranian regime before the revolution in 1979, when there were daily flights from Israel to Tehran and back, the majority in Iran, almost entirely, was still Shiite, but it was a different type of Shiite Islam. It was a more moderate, more pro-Western Shiite Islam. And it's this radical, what's called Twelver Shiite Islam, this branch of Islam that is the sect of the IRGC and of the Ayatollahs, which became the dominant type of Shiite Islam in Iraq, in Pakistan, in these other pockets around Iran. So it's that branch of Islam that is really, I would say being defeated. I don't think it's an overstatement to say that it's almost being eliminated. It's being brought to its knees in such a way that we could see more of these outbursts from pockets of Shiites in other countries in the days to come. And it'll be interesting to see how it changes the dynamics of the Muslim world after the dust settles from this war. All right. Thanks for watching. It looks like I didn't get an air raid siren. You see, that's what we have here in Israel is an early warning that everyone gets on their phones if there's going to be an attack possibly in your area, just so that you get near a bomb shelter. Let's say you're driving or you're somewhere where you're not so close to a bomb shelter. It gives you a few minutes to get closer to a bomb shelter just in case the missile is going to be close enough to you that you're going to get an actual air raid siren and have to go into the bomb shelter. Because when the missiles are first fired, they're quite far away and they don't necessarily know exactly where the points of contact will be. So we get these early warning buzzers. That's what I just got interrupting this video. And then later on, if relevant, you get the air raid siren. So it looks like I didn't get the air raid siren. Maybe it's still to come, but it's already been a while. So don't have to go to the bomb shelter. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Please, share this video, like, subscribe. We're going to keep bringing you important stories that relate to this war, keep you as informed as possible on this channel. So stay right here. God bless.